People
It
at one
proves-
place singing.
Yeah.
Chanting, not even singing, chanting.
Yes.
So yeah, largest will be ANC.
Okay, ANC.
I hate having to say this. DA. EFF.
EFF.
I am on the fence now. The two that.
As a white person, why do you hate Julius Malema?
So imagine a world where the ANC takes over and all resistance, anything that is kicking against change, is taken out of the way. So you take away the media, which is currently owned, you know
Yes.
how. You take away all these little think tanks. You take away all those other political parties that are not looking after African interests. And imagine that world. Okay. Do you think they would have been able to do more?
Of
With
course.
less obstacles?
Of course, they would do
Yes.
more. That's why I say democracy is it's a fallacy that would never ever work because it's funded by Johnny Mutlala. He gave me an example, especially of people who say, because there are people, believe me, who say Puputetswana was better, apartheid was better. They say it because they are counting, because there were certain benefits that they were getting. Johnny Mutlala, he gave me an example, especially of people who say, because there are people, believe me, who say Puputetswana was better, apartheid was better. They say it because they are counting, because there were certain benefits that they were getting with that kind of oppression. That's why they use the word kitchen end. And then when we dismantle the whole thing that we all could all share, suddenly even white people need to go on a queue. I will not enjoy if I had a system where I did not queue. Now I have to queue.
It's the ANC or the new regime that came in. And I'm not saying that the ANC didn't do much. I also think that's also this kind of drastic, they've done nothing, they're useless. Stop that.
There isn't, and I'm in pains trying to explain what were the benefits. Please tell the audience, who are you and where you from?
My name is Bianca. I
Yes.
am... Where am I from?
Yes, where
Okay.
you from?
So
It's difficult. I want to tell you, sorry for disturbing you. It's difficult for us to pick up a white accent to locate you where you're from. But for us who speak vernacular,
Yes.
you could see my Sepedi is not from Pretoria, and my Tsonga is not from Pretoria, or my Tsonga is not from... It's very difficult for us to pin you down with your accent. So where are you from?
Okay, so originally KZN, and then moved into Limpopo, and now in Gauteng.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Shab, let's start with the icebreakers. The first one, so these icebreakers, you choose one. I'm going to throw things, you choose one.
Okay.
And some are easy, some are difficult, so it's deliberate. So this is just for the audience to know you better.
Okay.
Dr. Frederick van Zyl-Slavet or Helen Suzman? You choose one, and you have a right to explain why.
Oh my. You know, I can honestly tell you I don't really know much about both, except...
Just choose.
Yeah, it's difficult. Probably Van Zyl.
Van Zyl-Slavet.
Yes, but I could probably not tell you much about them.
Okay.
I know Helen Suzman, I have a little bit of a problem around white liberals. So
Peter Musimani or Jomasono?
I'm still lost.
Pick one. So the deliberate thing is, once you pick and then you're going to sit, when you consume this content, you'll realize, oh, what a bad mistake. Then this is deliberate. Peter Musimani or Jomasono. So they're both coaches and former players.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Choose one.
You said Joe?
Yeah.
Let's go with Joe.
Jomasono.
Yes.
Okay. Hansi Kronyor, Louis Late.
Goodness.
They
Why
are
are we
both
doing
late.
sports? Why are we doing sports?
It's deliberate.
Okay, let's...
We want to see how South
Is Louis
African are
Late
you.
still alive?
I think it's late.
Okay. Because I was thinking I'll go with someone... Hansi Cronje, how's that?
Hansi Kronyor, it's fine. Steve Biko or Mangaliso Sobukwe?
Why are you
one.
splitting the two?
It is deliberate. Some are easy, some are difficult.
Steve Biko.
Biko. Okay? Tambo or Honey? That's Oliver Tambo or Chris Honey?
Oliver Tambo.
Oliver Tambo, Tony Leon or Helen Zille? They're both alive.
Why? Okay, I'm going to transport myself back to where I didn't know much about Helen Zille.
Okay.
So I'll go with Helen Zille.
Okay. Would you get a Botox?
No.
Oh, okay, it's fine. Pretoria or Bloemfontein?
Pretoria.
TikTok or Twitter?
TikTok.
Charlize Theron or Trevor Noah?
I wasn't happy with him recently. I like Charlize. Let's go, Charlize.
Kagiso Rabada or Makaya Ntini?
Makaya Ntini.
Malema or Zuma?
Malema.
Chiefs or Pirates?
Chiefs.
The Stormers or Bulls?
I know nothing about rugby. Okay, I'll go with the Bulls.
The Bulls.
Yeah.
A full-on Pretoria girl. Carl Niehaus or Louis Liebenberg?
I'll go with Carl Niehaus.
Carl Niehaus.
Yeah.
Senzo Meiwa or Itumeleng Kude?
Again, stuck. Let's go with Senzo.
Senzo Meiwa.
Yeah.
Musi or Hemen?
Musi.
The last one, Steve Hofmeyer or Davy Roth?
Oh, man.
Please choose one.
Let's go with Davy.
Davy Roth, okay.
Yeah.
So let's.
Did I fail?
No. There's no right or wrong answer
Some of
here.
those choices are horrible.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You when you are pinned, we just need to know which way you would go. So we want our audience to know who are you and where you from and what. Just tell them what are you famous for. Why? Okay, let me just put it this way. Why do white people hate you so much?
Oh, that hurts.
I'm going directly. Why do white people hate you so much?
Okay, personally, I don't think they hate me.
They hate you so much.
But they're very passionate about me. And there is a group of white people, okay? Because, so I think it is because I am kicking against something that makes them feel comfortable, and I'm making them feel uncomfortable by the way I see things.
Okay.
And that discomfort makes them very angry, but then again, it's not a bad thing. It makes them question where they are. So I have had situations where people have been extremely rude and aggressive, and then I respond and I take my time and try and explain my stance, and then I will get a DM saying, Yana, I understand where you're coming from, and then they'll tell me about their personal story, and but that's rare. I just want to know.
How many people have assumed your husband is black?
Oh, lots. It's lots. I've told him he's black now.
Yeah.
We must just accept it.
Yeah, just tired of explaining.
I'm tired of explaining the situation.
Okay, so I had you explaining to someone was what is cognitive dissonance, and I bet they didn't even understand. So I want you to understand that even if you go to Christians, you try to explain something as fair as you want, or you go to Sangomas, you will always and almost certainly get the same rejection that you are getting from the white community in understanding why you do what you do. And so there, you are the queen of club bags, you know that? And most of the content people follow from you is the club bag that you do, because you offer very educational club bags, and you make a lot of people uncomfortable, because in South Africa, and that's the unfortunate part, we follow based on association. So no matter how much you speak sense, as long as you are with me, I will always retweet whatever you're saying, and I would like it. So how has your personal life been affected by your social media space? based on, because people like you based on, because you are white, people expect you to be a white female, a typical white female, and Afrikaner. How difficult is it?
Okay, so it is not really hard, I don't think. And I think it's got a lot to do with privilege.
Yeah.
Okay, but because it's very difficult to fight against something that you know is right. Okay.
Openly.
Yes,
openly.
On social media, it's a total different thing. But I have seen what does happen, where I have been in the company of people that are totally opposed to what I say. And it's like they curl up into the fetal position when I say, no, who is they? Who are you referring to? Or, and so face to face, it hasn't been too much of an issue. There has been certain interactions that were less pleasant than others, where I was at a braai and this big man in his khaki shorts got up and he walked so fast towards me, but he was quickly stopped by other people right there where I questioned his thinking, because they're not used to being challenged in a situation like that, and he felt embarrassed because we were at a braai, and it was after a few brandies. I don't drink brandy, but he did. And I got a sincere apology, but I cut off that relationship immediately. So there's been one or two situations in, where things like that have happened. But in general, I must also say that I also have got no problem cutting people off until you come to your senses.
Yeah, so I interviewed Isaiah, so she deliberately goes by the name Isaiah on TikTok. She discusses like the goofy personal stories of people who like crime and stuff. So, and she says she's using that name deliberately because if she uses her real names, people will attach. So she's worried about her family and stuff because she's obviously recognizable. So, does your family tell you, can you please calm down? Can you tone it down?
No, they know better. So my husband, as much as he's totally the opposite of me when it comes to demeanor, he actually watches in awe, and he like, whew, you were angry with that one? Oh. Or he'll say to me, say this. Yeah. No, that's and my daughter is also quite, I would say, she's more of an introvert, but she doesn't understand the philosophy of racists, okay, because she hasn't grown up in that kind of situation, so she doesn't understand it. But she also often says, oh, Mom, you said white people don't have lips because God took them away because they lie so much. And then she says to me, so she goes to university, and all her, she has black friends at university. There's a mixed group, and she says, Mom, they're all showing me this video of this white lady that said that white people don't have lips, and I'm not telling them it's you. So where they won't get, they don't tell me to calm down at all. I think in a way it's nice for them to be associated with that kind of thing. It's just that's not in their personalities to do that. And I also see, even on TikTok and on Twitter, where I'm also quite active and hated just as much by a certain crowd, that there are people that will support you quietly, and they'll promote your content and things like that, and stay away from the arguments and things like that. I think it's still the very old mentality, though, is that we're this group and we must fight against the enemy.
So I ran a poll today. Let me just show you the poll. Let me see if I can find the poll. So I ran a poll about. I know, man. It's off. I ran a poll about if Biko was still alive, what would he vote for? What would he, and stuff. Sometimes all these polls that I run online, it's as if some are surprising, some are straightforward. So one said, who's this? Verwoerd would vote for Thorwood would vote for, what is this?
Freedom Front Plus.
Freedom Front Plus.
That's
and
natural.
that's obvious. Yes, that's obvious.
That's obvious, yeah.
So, race identity in South Africa, it hasn't changed, and it doesn't look like it will change. And this is why DA multiplied itself with BOSA and RISE and Action SA and stuff. So when you project opinions that are not aligned to what is obviously your race, because I mean, I don't want to use it on social media, because those people with names that are like numbers, like phone numbers.
Use many numbers.
Yes, use up many numbers. They will always, but in your personal capacity, like in people that you know but they're not extrovert per se.
Yes.
When you talk to them, what do they say?
Okay, so a lot of people, I would say, agree.
Yes.
With, but they wouldn't be. They're afraid of their
saying it out.
situation.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, at a stage I used to get very angry with the fact that, say it yourself. Just like I used to.
Yes.
But I must say it will affect you financially.
Yes.
And it has affected certain people financially.
All of us.
So I personally, what I do is I facilitate training. So,
Yes.
so for me is I'm not tied to one specific
Yes.
employer.
Yes.
And the people that I do work for when I do
Yes.
training, people think I work for the government.
Yes.
Because of my views. You have to be paid
Yes.
somehow. And I work for private companies, and they know me from social media.
Yes.
People have actually said,
Yeah.
come and do something on leadership or whatever. So I have people that will tell me, no, they agree, but I must understand their situation. But I've even got people where women are married to husbands that are racist, and they are on their own anti-racist journey.
Ish.
Which is very hard.
Very, very hard.
It's extremely hard, and I can understand. And they also financially relying on this person.
Of course.
So, yeah, I think that there's more than we think there is.
Yes.
That think differently.
Yes.
It's just being brave enough to actually say, this is not all of us. I mean, we just watched that with the Afrikaner Accord.
Yes.
From the Solidarity Group that wants now cultural spaces for Afrikaans people. They want to build, they want to have like what you call a volksstaat, nation state, similar to Oranje.
Again.
Yes, again. So where we should have, as a group, stood up and said, no, you can't carry on doing this kind of thing, and you're really putting white people in a difficult situation now, because now it just looks like, okay, so we want, because people don't separate the organization, Solidarity Movement from white people, because they speak on behalf of white Afrikaans people. Even though it's a membership organization.
Yeah.
So people think now white Afrikaans people want to go all live like in Oranje.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I've got my own, I think it's top 11 of what I'm going to choose. But before I do that, so this is about the elections. You're not using any percentages, just on top of your head, what do you think the order will be? The number one will be, it doesn't have to be 51%, no. Just say, I think the biggest will be this one, and then you come down. Then I want to write it down and see how it compares to mine.
Okay, largest will be ANC.
Okay, ANC.
I hate having to say this. DA.
DA.
EFF.
EFF.
I am on the fence now. The two that I'm not sure between is Action SA and Freedom Front Plus. Because I think Action SA would have built up a certain base. I think there'll be okay. Who did I leave out? Who's the other parties?
It's MK.
Action SA, EFF. Oh, MK.
Yes.
I forgot about MK.
Yes.
Because it's a new kid on the block.
Yes, you forgot MK.
I don't know how well MK is going to do. I'm kind of still on the fence there. Maybe. Yeah.
So you're looking for your number 4 now.
Number 4 is difficult though. So I would say, yeah, probably MK.
Okay, MK.
Then Freedom Front Plus.
Okay.
Then Action SA.
Mashaba.
Yeah. Rise and Zanzi.
Rice.
And then Bosa.
Musi. Even.
They've got social capital from their
Yes.
previous organizations. But I think those two, they'll be sharing at the end. How many must I give?
You need 2. You've given 8. You need 2 now.
You know, I forgot IFP.
IFP, where do
Please
you want
put
to...
IFP above Rise and above...
Okay. IFP should be after MK, or you wanted...
Where's the Freedom Front Plus?
The Freedom Front Plus is number 5.
IFP above Freedom Front Plus.
Okay. IFP.
Yeah.
So you need 1 now.
Oh, it's the one I would want, but it's not going to get it there. Azapu.
Azapu.
I want it. It's not going to...
Azapu won't make it. I'm not writing Azapu. It's not going to make it.
Who did I leave out? There's all these funny little parties that have also... maybe... Al-Jamal.
Al-Jama.
Yeah. Because I've just thought about it.
Because of Israel.
Yes, it actually is most likely to get...
Okay, it's fine. So
Yeah.
here's your 10. It's ANC, DA, EFF, MK, IFP, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, Rice, Bosa, Al-Jamal. So
Yeah.
let me give you my 12. No?
Okay.
I'll give you my 12.
Okay.
And then we're going to discuss why you think of it that way. So mine is ANC, DA, EFF, MK.
Oh.
This is where we are similar.
Okay.
And then, before IFP, I've put Action SA.
Okay.
And then IFP,
Okay.
Rise Mzansi, ACDP. You forgot them. ACDP. And then I'm starting with my surprise packages.
Okay.
That's the UAT. They are called the Doers, and their youth league is called Tomorrow's Future. So they are backed by this mega church.
Okay.
That's where they're gonna get the base for their votes. I don't want to name the church, but they are backed by a church, so they claim 1 million registered voters as their members.
Oh, wow.
this
How
is
big
a
is that church?
It's one of those big churches. And then getting Mackenzie with Patriotic Alliance.
Oh, I forgot him too.
Yeah. And then, so Gaten is my number 10, I think, yeah. And then ELF South Africa. So they call themselves the Liberators. These are the ones that started with EFF's logo.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I remember them.
And then ATM. ATM is Zangula. They are also have their basis on church membership.
Okay.
So what this, according to me, these politicians have realized that politicians will always go to churches to get these numbers.
I've seen that.
So they've started, but these are the numbers that we have. We are always negotiating them away to politicians. Let's just use them. You understand? So they keep their own thing. And this is strategic after the past 10 years. People have started moving towards this space. But that is my 10. That is my 12, in fact. I think it's my 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, that's my 12. So...
But I forgot Gaten now.
Gaten. So where would you want to squeeze him? Already have a 10.
Yeah, but we need to shift someone out there. Who's
Okay,
my last one?
let me just ANC, DA, EFF, MK, IFP, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, Rise, Bosa, Al-Jamal.
No, Gaten above Bosa.
Gaten above getting above Musi, and then you're kicking. Okay,
we'll have to kick out
Al Jamal would be on number
but how
11.
come you got 12 and I get 10?
Okay,
that's discrimination.
All right,
it's because I'm white.
All right. PA, it's fine. So we sorted.
Yeah.
Or you want to squeeze in your number 12?
No, it's fine.
All right.
Good.
So let me tell you why I think ANC. Because people always confuse they'll be number one with they will win. Yeah, it's different, guys. Being number one and being the winner. This is not a marathon. This is not even a sprint. So if you are number one, it doesn't mean you have won. So you are just the one with a bigger chunk, but not a majority. So here's the thing. The old people, when I did my Vox Poly, when I interview people on the street, what I've seen consistently is the older people are, the more likely they will vote ANC. The struggle to change is because they felt and they lived in apartheid South Africa. You know, these guys who tell me that you guys are taking this for granted because you never lived in apartheid. It's very difficult for those people to change, and so that's the best explanation I can give you why the old people are voting. And the other one is there are millions of people on social grant. There are millions of people on social grant, and I'll tell you why this is important. I've interviewed the MMC of Tshwane. I said to her, I've spoken to a lot of ANC people. They told me that you guys have taken away, there's something called POP, so it's called Poorest of the Poor. It was fashioned by the previous Tshwane Mayor, Sputla, who's now the minister. So it's an indigent program where they take bulk water, bulk services, they give it to, not African people, but the poor. So, and people apply for that, and so the poor were benefiting from that. When DA came, they used, because they always believe everything is fraught with fraudulent activities and registrations, they cancelled the whole thing, or they made it expire so people can reapply. So what then happened is there was a lot of red tape. So that bureaucracy ended up kicking a lot of people who were benefiting from that.
Yes.
And the perception now, if you go to townships and stuff, is DA has taken POP. And I asked that lady, do you have numbers of how many people were on your indigent program before you took over the city and afterwards? She doesn't know.
Okay.
And ANC is using it to discampaign DA, to say, this is proof. And they do it in all DA places. This is proof that when DA comes into power, they will take away. You understand what I'm saying? So DA is allowing own goals here. People are now fearing, because what ANC is saying, it's actually on the ground. People who used to be on that program, they've taken those things away. And DA must just wake up. And I said to her, why don't you go out and prove that it's not the truth? You understand? So they're failing. And the narrative keeps continuing that DA, if they take power, they will take away your grants.
It didn't help that they've also said they want to do something about minimum wage.
Of course, Helen Zille just goes and shoots herself in the tummy and talk about, and she tried to defend it in a most horrible way. I mean, well, let's not even go
there. So people are, even if they didn't take it away,
yes,
they've now,
yes, they
just have become the enemy of the poor.
Yes.
Yeah,
and Africans don't trust the DA because of such things.
Yeah.
And Africans are afraid of Malema. So I'm telling you why ANC wins. Africans are afraid of Malema. Africans are afraid of major changes. Like, change is very difficult. Change managers will tell you, you facilitate talks, you would know. Change is very difficult. Even if you are selling carrots to the change, people are still reluctant because they don't know what kind of change they're getting themselves into. And you would see why Julius has toned down and the EFF toned down on their radicalism, especially based on land and taking banks and stuff. It's because they realize that their shock message is bouncing very hard on Africans. And this is why people don't vote. They are afraid of Julius Malema because of that, because of the radicalism, and it works in favor for ANC. Africans are selfish with power sharing. This I say, okay, what can we, okay, let's call out white parties, DA, Action SA, and Freedom Front Plus. Which other?
Why do you call Action SA a white party?
It's a white party.
It's led by Michael Beaumont.
Yeah, it's led by a white guy. It's funded mostly by white people, and it's white at the top. I asked
Herman Mashaba's at the top.
No, it's not at the top. So I asked the Action SA guys who were working, and I said, guys, why are you not representative of your own party demographic? Where are the white people? They said, no, they're working night shift. They do their work here in Denville. We've got white people here, and your Action SA has white people in council. But where are they now? Because the community that you are working at, you have white people in this community. Why can't they? And they were clutching at straws. And I even showed it on the podcast. Say, here are the leaders of Action SA. So Action SA and DA has white people there on top, and then yeah. So Africans are afraid, because so it means the majority of these parties are African parties, but they are failing to unite, to combine their efforts and make 2 or 3 mega parties that will challenge the ANC. Because of that failure and their selfishness, that's why the ANC keeps winning. You understand? And I've stated here. Another thing is, I think it goes back to those victims. You know, you are a white Afrikaner woman. When you hear someone speaking Afrikaans, it's just a language to you.
I'm actually English, but it's fine. My husband's Afrikaans.
So
yeah, but when I hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you hear people speaking Afrikaans, you don't immediately assume hostility, right?
No.
Yes. You would even.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah.
They may not admit to you, but a lot of African people, myself in particular, whenever I hear Afrikaans, and I would tell African people that I live with, I say, guys, don't get me wrong. When I hear someone speaking to me in Afrikaans, I don't take it as friendly fire. When someone speaks Afrikaans, I think someone is being aggressive. And other African people may not admit this to you.
Okay.
Yes, because Afrikaans is a language of oppression. So it was used with negative connotations to us. So every time we hear it, and it was forced down to us. I want you to understand that. So every time we hear it, every time you hear something that has to do with Afrikaans, you read or you find Afrikaans, it draws you to want to retreat and fight back. And these are the advantages of ANC.
Okay.
You know, ANC stole the June 16. They're stealing just about everything. They steal everything. They make it their own identity, and they remove the real heroes of that thing. And ANC become embodiment of that struggle. And this is the part that the other parties could not do because they don't have power. Let me tell you another thing. So I'm revealing her age, guys. She's 50. I'm 45. Struggle songs are what Afrikaans is to you guys. So when I hear struggle songs, it takes me to a place that you guys would not understand. Whether it's EFF, whether it's MK, whether it's ANC, when I hear, so if Msholozi is one of the best, Msholozi and Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, one of the best singers we have. Whenever they sing struggle songs, it doesn't mean anything to you because it doesn't talk to you. When he says umhlaba wethu, ne, umhlaba wethu, he's speaking about our land. It reminds people what the struggle was about. And so I tell people that, you know, I don't understand why people hate ANC so much, because ANC has betrayed us. And you guys have gained more from ANC than we have. Come to think of it, if you look at the stats, white people are just angry of equality, the demands for equality. That's what makes them angry, the demand for equality. But being that as it may, we African people, we feel more betrayed by the ANC and our African parties, because when we started this, it was about the land, and we still don't have the land. And it's funny, there's another debate but like I said, I want this to be a conversation between you, me and you. So that is my story. With ANC, I've summed up why all these other parties are not doing well. Tell me, what is the problem with the way South Africa is politically?
Okay, so I'm kind of I said the other day is that I'm someone that will stand on a bridge and burn it if it's not working. Okay, so I can tell you, I've got a rule, okay, and I understand what people say about ANC and betrayal and all those kind of things. My rule on this is I wasn't there. I didn't have to, but I have read enough. I mean, I've read stuff. It's the Prince of ANC is someone that got expelled from the ANC, and it will come to me. And I have got a rule of, I won't judge what happened there.
Yes.
Who betrayed who or what exactly happened. Did betrayals happen? Yes, did. Same people smiling and talking about the betrayals that happened, they were part of those betrayals. If you just read. So I think if I had to look at our political system, there is quite a bit wrong. Okay. The way the system has accommodated, I would say, people that own resources, and it's been so gentle, and it's tiptoed around these resources. The way political parties, because it's all about me trying to get a little bit of power and one up you on this. So it's nice for me to vote against something that might be in our people's interest or in our people. When I say our people, I mean everyone.
It's very difficult to explain our people.
And I know.
I still don't know what you mean when you say our people.
I mean South Africa.
Yeah. Our people.
And they one-up each other and then run to Twitter and say how so-and-so didn't vote for that and so-and-so didn't vote for that. And then you go and look at the committee meetings minutes and you see, but you didn't vote for that. So, those kind of things. So for me, politicians are egotistical. I have yet to see a politician that is going to stand up there and make a difference. All right.
Yeah.
The entire system doesn't work for me, the way it's set up. But it's set up around Western principles, so this is what we've got now.
So the reason I'm asking you this question is I unpacked why we've got this political system and this political hierarchy.
Yes.
That at the top of the pyramid is the ANC, and it goes down. In fact, it's the reverse. ANC is the big chunk at the bottom of the food chain. So, according to you, what makes ANC keep having majority and the other parties not win? Besides, of course, the own goal scored by EFF. So EFF would be regarded as scoring their own goal, because I've said it many times here that they are the best political party in South Africa. The biggest own goal they have scored, and they continue scoring, is the open border policy that draws a lot of people away from them, because their haters are using that very same thing to draw people who are doubting them away from the EFF.
But okay, so can I just
answer that
on the open borders?
Yes, answer that. I wanted to give you examples of how I see these parties.
Okay, so when it comes to the EFF and the open borders policy, if anyone actually read, it's not like, hey, come, everyone, just come in. And it's around the consolidation of power around in Africa, which is required. I mean, if you just take a look at what's happening to Africa or what has happened historically, and the ability of the West to actually divide Africa, well, they set the borders, to divide Africa the way it has been divided, is part of the problem. Can you imagine a consolidated Africa? And people can't understand that concept because it's not real for us. So it's always been a certain way. And I don't think the goal here if you say own goal, I think they assumed that people would actually do homework on it.
Exactly.
What is meant, so that is the problem.
Exactly.
If you don't from the beginning, and that's probably why I'll never be in politics, most likely, is because if you don't from the beginning start recognizing, okay, so what will my naysayers and my haters do right from, and you campaign directly from the beginning on those things, so that you educate people on those, because you're sitting in meeting rooms coming up with these ideas and then expecting that other people will see.
Yes.
Or that they'll read, and people don't read.
Yes.
I mean, my people.
when EFF explains their open border policy, because we call it open border policy, but it's not really open border policy. What they're saying is, and I've said it a lot of this on this podcast. So it's a systems thing. So the system would only work if all interrelated parts are working. So in Maputo should work, the harbour should work perfectly, Francistown must work, Botswana must work, all these parts must work, so we start interacting things between us. And the problem comes is those complicated policies are very difficult to articulate. What then happens is then Julius Malema is quoted with those things that says find creative ways to come in, and it's always used that sound bite everywhere to discredit him. He goes, and then when he says something proper, they say now he's flip-flopping. It's because he has flip-flopped. You understand what I'm saying? Because there are things that are not, and this is why writing manifestos is futile for the voters. I'm being honest with you. So, how many pages is the EF? 100 and?
Is it 200 and something?
Yes.
Yes.
Man, I was telling someone that I'm not reading manifestos. But the only manifesto I read was the MK manifesto, because I needed to do a podcast based on that. Because I was waiting for what MK says they really are. Because, I mean, for all these years, we've just known that people who vote, they just vote for Msholozi. Now that there's policy preference, this is what they want. So I needed to read it out for people. So that's the only manifesto I read. And that was deliberate. I wanted to see how I understand the party without reading the manifesto, because the manifestos, I've read them many times. And they are painstaking and full of jargon that does not relate to reality. And I felt, after reading a manifesto for party, I feel like, but a lot of these things could have been a 2-pager. You understand? So, EFF, as great as they are, they have to understand that sometimes, so the manifesto maybe is given to, whenever they go to corporate meetings, they're going to meet people and say, this is our manifesto. And I think it is designed for that. But for us, rank and file members of society, we are just going to use one status from WhatsApp where Julius Malema says wrong things. And we are going to rebel against it. And that's the unfortunate part about our voters.
That's true. I mean, till this day, I'm still trying to tell people, watch the entire video where he said we're not calling for the slaughter of white people. And then he finishes it, yet. But if you if you watch that interview there, there's much more likelihood that you should be voting for that man than any other man.
That interview is one of the best Julius Malema interviews.
I really enjoyed it.
And he was a bit younger there, and he explained a lot of things, and he made a lot of sense. And you know, I don't sit like this with a lot of white people because
why?
we are not South Africa. People think Africans and white people sit more like this together. Honestly, we don't. Because whatever got us into that meeting, we'll talk about that meeting and end, because it will not be a fair conversation. So we don't get enough chance to ask white people to say, please explain to me who's an African person, as a white person. Why do you hate Julius Malema? And it's unfortunate you don't hate Julius Malema.
Sorry.
And you're not going to give me that because if you ask a white person, a South African white person, those who are on the podcast, please tell me, because I do know there are white people who watch my content. Why do you hate EFF? I still don't understand. And I'm being honest, and I'm not being sarcastic and stuff. I don't understand why white people hate Julius Malema. And because I don't understand, I'm always assuming. And I'm assuming you hate it because it talks about black pride and it talks about sharing of the resources of Africa. And until you don't tell me why you hate him, this is the reason I assume white people hate Julius Malema and EFF, because they are demanding equal share. Because he hasn't done anything to white people.
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't done anything to white people.
No.
Yet.
Yet.
And they use that yet as if it's a big thing. He hasn't done anything.
Yeah, but it will always, if it wasn't Julius Malema, it would have been someone else. Anyone that has got, the one thing is, I went through all the interviews. Remember when AfriForum took Julius Malema to court for the for hate speech? And I went through all those interviews, and I heard how
the court hearing or
the court.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So the court hearing, and I listened to him, and AfriForum doesn't know how much of a favor they did for him there.
Yes.
Because they gave him a platform to say things that, when I listened to it, I was like, okay, but you see, I'm already preaching to the choir on that side. But if people heard that message, that, where he's already tired, so he's not posturing or anything like that, and heard that message, it spoke to the heart. It was very clear. There was nothing violent or...
he was relaxed in the dog.
He was tired. It was hours. Yes. So it was a very clear message. Not that I've ever found the EFF violent. I mean, the reaction to see a big group of black people together is a programmed reaction. Remember all the outcry after the anniversary, the EFF's anniversary?
Yes, on the stage.
It was like everyone was having a meltdown about, go to a soccer match. Get out of your little...
Yes.
But it was like, all these black people in one place singing.
Yeah.
Chanting, not even singing, chanting.
Yes.
So I don't think white people really know, but he has been the identified enemy. And he will represent the scary thing that communism did for us previously, and it's being drummed into people.
So I'm going to ask you, what is your perspective on what solidarity is? When I say solidarity, it means like I'm talking about an English word. It means a solidarity union. What's your perspective on it?
On the movement, or are you talking about are you talking about
the union? Is it a union?
Okay, so there's people confuse the two. Okay, so solidarity is a movement, and then it's got little companies underneath it. AfriForum, Solidariteit Union.
Okay,
a whole lot of them are underneath that. So I think it's close to 20 something. Organizations under this umbrella
of solidarity.
Yes. So the movement is called the Solidariteit Beweging, Solidarity Movement. And it has been quietly, branching out, getting involved in, for instance, City of Tshwane with AfriForum.
Yeah.
So it branches out and it starts, and it's in security. And, AfriForum's major flagship project is farm attacks. And that is what solidarity is.
And for me, borders control.
Yes.
They go and patrol at the borders.
Yeah. They go and do that, and they've got their own schools. Still keeping it white. Keeping it Afrikaans. Let's just say it's just for Afrikaans people. But I had a friend a while ago that used to work at Solidariteit Union.
Okay.
And when a black person wanted to join the union, they would just lose the membership
they can't reject you.
They'd lose it because they were seen as high-risk members. They called them high-risk black people. So really, and they've got 500,000 members in all their little organizations. Okay, so altogether 500, and we're talking about paying members, and then you must remember those people are family.
Yes.
So this solidarity movement, it reminds me a lot of the old Broederbond.
Yeah.
But except it doesn't have governmental power, but technically it does if you own the resources. So
because that's exactly where I want us, after discussing this, to go on the great things that the Afrikaners have done, that the ANC and those who support this new dispensation can do, but are afraid, or they are afraid to betray their original funders. I want us to talk about that.
yeah.
So what did I'm struggling with Afrikaans words. let's start with they call it Bosberat.
Yes.
Yeah, Bosberat is what? It's when after they stuck in Codesa, they went to the bush.
Yes.
And have a caucus there.
Yes.
That's where Rolf Meyer prickled Ramaphosa with a fish hook, right? Yeah, there's a narrative of what they're saying. And they come up with the Act 108 of the Constitution, and so this is where stuff was smoothed, and they went back. So that little thing is called a Bosberat.
Yes.
Okay, so Bosberat means a bush talk. What does it mean?
Yes, it is interaction in the bush.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a team building.
Okay. Yeah, every time people
Let's
speak,
get on the same page.
every time people speak about Bosberat, because I don't understand the word correctly, I say no, that's.
So yeah, Bos is bush,
Is
and then
bush.
Berat is we advising each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so let's talk about the Afrikaner, Boere. What is that? What that other word?
What?
Broederbond or what?
Broederbond.
Broederbond, not Boere.
No, Broederbond.
Please explain it to us. Just try to keep it as short as possible, but so we could understand, because it's a very important time in our history. Of they had a vision and they worked on it, and because I want to compare it as to why did we fail after taking government.
Okay.
So what was it, and what was the intention there?
Okay, so the Broederbond was about consolidating power within a group of elite white Afrikaners in South Africa. And they then, the way they did that is they made sure that they influenced everything, okay, from education, governments. They advised, for instance, at that stage, the prime ministers were only chosen if they were members of the Broederbond.
Okay.
So it was kind of a feed. If you had a high position, you were linked to the Broederbond. The Broederbond signed off on
Was the
anything. So they didn't.
aristocracy of their Afrikaner cream.
Yeah, you could say.
Okay.
You could say cream.
Okay.
Yeah, and well off, and they managed things that way. Is that they put people in strategic places, and if you criticized the Broederbond, they would be able to make sure life was very difficult, because they also were in control of
all state
of
staff,
newspapers,
private,
media, things like that. And that is what it did. It shaped and influenced the apartheid policies, for instance, was the Broederbond. Yeah.
Okay. And
what I wanted to say is, you must remember there was room for that, because white Afrikaans people at that stage were not educated.
Okay.
So the few that were educated,
yeah.
and they then rised, they were the
Yes.
cream of the crop and looked up to and,
Yeah.
worshipped in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with that, they amassed this wealth, but because Afrikaners were few, should I say Afrikaners or should I say white, it was easy for this thing to go into their programs, where after conscription, when they come back and then they are given apprentices. So because I want to compare their successes with the failure of the ANC. Is it because they were few and we are in millions, or what? Why were they successful, or they had international protection and we do not have?
I think, okay, so the first thing that we should start off, there was no resistance to that kind of...
Internal and external.
Yeah. there was no resistance internally and externally up until a certain stage where it got too much, and the international, they waited for how many years before they acted, and then still continued doing backdoor deals with South Africa's apartheid government. So we know that, and we know the links between Israel and which is very strange because, well, that's a sideshow. Because, I mean, the members of the Broederbond were like also big fans of the Germany during Nazi. So the first thing was there's no resistance. Okay, so imagine a world where the ANC takes over and all resistance, anything that is kicking against change, is taken out of the way. So you take away the media, which is currently owned, you know how. You take away all these little think tanks. You take away all those other political parties that are not looking after African interests. And imagine that world. Okay. Do you think they would have been able to do more? With less obstacles?
Of course, they would do more. That's why I say democracy is it's a fallacy that would never ever work because it's funded by capitalism. You can't achieve anything in democratic states, and this is where you need a benevolent dictator. But I do understand I live in a democracy and I have to live with it, but I'm not a fan of democracy because I don't think it's a very impractical thing to advance people's liberation, as it were.
I also don't think capitalism works in Africa, and that's my view. No, because again, all that will happen is you'll have, it's the crab in the bucket story, is that when you get out, you're not going to help someone else out, and you get people enriching themselves thinking, no, I don't want to, I don't want to go back to the bucket.
Yes.
And we've seen that, unfortunately, and people with great intentions that have done well and then but don't.
Yeah.
So take the obstacles away, take the pushback away, and it's well funded. And it's not only funded internally, it's funded from external now too. Okay. That you have to deal with people pushing against a whole lot of things. If we just look, for instance, how the USA in their Congress is discussing our participation in ALGOA because South Africa made a decision to go to ICJ. I mean, and we've got a political party whispering in their ears. One of the
Democratic Alliance.
I'm not even going to say.
Yes.
People know exactly. If you just look at that, so take the obstacles away, and then see. Do you think it would have made a difference? Another thing is just again, what are we comparing? If we had to compare the successes of the previous, you'd say white Afrikaners, to the ANC, what are we actually comparing? You're looking at a fifth of population using 100% of resources. Well, let's be fair. 13% of the country was where black people were allowed. That was where they were, And we mustn't forget, and a lot of people forget, Indian people and colored people were also chased out, and segregated. So much so, I mean, if you look at the control, if you just look at Indian people, they were doing well in shops, and they were boycotted. They were boycotted by, the Indian traders in South Africa.
So tell me about, I asked the Patriotic Alliance guy, you said...
Gayton?
No.
Oh.
The Patriotic Alliance guy in Tshwane, he said the Coloureds and the Indians didn't sit in the tricameral parliament because they boycotted it in support of African people. Please tell us about the tricameral
come
parliament.
On! What is revisional history?
And I said, so the Coloureds loved Africans so much, and the Indians, and they boycotted the tricameral parliament. He said, yes. I said, well... You are sitting that way where you're sitting.
No.
So I want to understand.
Are we rewriting history now?
I want to understand because Patrick Alliance feels that he have to speak for colored people. So I want to understand. Teach me and teach the audience, what was the tricameral parliament?
Okay, so it was simply a divide and rule parliament set up. So what the requirement was that there were a certain amount of seats So you had colored people, Indian people, and then white people. But the seats amounted to less than the white people. So
Yes.
even if colored people and Indian people agreed on something, it wouldn't have mattered. And the people that joined that initially, and you know what, that's also another thing is, I personally will never, but that's again because I don't have to, is join a party that is looking after a interest group.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's just not something if you say, I'm here for white English woman,
Yes.
I'm not interested because
You're
that's not
going to
gonna work
ignore
for me.
other things.
Yeah. And but then again, if you support colored people and you have noticed there's a vacuum, then, and their interests aren't getting heard, then join. You know, then create your party, do your thing. But no, on the tricameral parliament.
So in the tricameral parliament, the coloureds were more than the Indians. They had more seats than the Indians.
Yes.
And how did that come about? What was the negotiation there?
I think it was the
Did they
numbers
use
at that
numbers?
stage. I think it was the numbers at that stage. But even though they were more, it didn't really matter, because their votes never counted.
Yeah,
and the
but
people
because
that joined
they had to go to convince each other. Once they're done, they go and convince the other white seats for something, and they only discuss something that's only in their interest, only, not national interest.
Yeah, and it would just be shot down if it was any change. And if you read, a lot of those people, leaders in that parliament, walked away. They were ostracized by their own communities because they made promises they couldn't keep.
Ish.
And then they were also despondent, and because they had really believed us. And that's the thing, is there's always this, we'll just do a little thing and a little thing for you, and I mean, I see it with the Freedom Front Plus now. Leonard Max joined the Freedom Front Plus. He was their mayoral candidate, coloured man, in Cape Town. He was their mayoral candidate in 2021, I think. And he's resigned now. He waited for how many years? 4 years for them to change their constitution, which clearly indicates that the Freedom Front Plus's constitution clearly indicates that their main focus is creating a nation state for the Afrikaner. So you had all these coloured people, and Leonard Max had a conversation with Dr. Corné Mulder, according to his resignation letter, and Dr. Corné Mulder said they were working on it. So for 4 years you were strung along, and you went and campaigned in coloured communities in the Western Cape and got the Freedom Front Plus, the coloured vote, in certain areas. And you resigned just before elections, because it's never going to change. But he wasn't the only one. There were a number of coloured people that left, except he was the most senior one. So stop believing us, people. Let us join your party.
Yes.
But don't give us a senior position.
Yeah. So let's talk about, it's very difficult to explain the Bantu stance to young people now. So the Bantu stance would have been, because and it's very difficult. I'm saying it again. So the most prominent ones is Buputatswana. I'm told that KwaZulu-Natal was not a Bantustan. This is what I'm told. I'm not sure. So, and I'm using these two prominent ones as an example. So they say, that's the whites of them. They say when you are in those, you are not in South Africa. Because they wanted those Bantustans to be, and that's why those guys were called prime ministers. They were to be independent states. And no one but South Africa recognized them. When they were collapsing, and I'm going to deliberately use this word, especially in Buputatswana, Pan-Africanists talk about what they call, others call it uncle, what? They call a kitchen N. You do know what I mean? A kitchen N? Yes. So a kitchen N for them would be someone who, even though we are all oppressed, but because I'm oppressed better, if we want to dismantle everything, would have to protect the master and this whole setup to stay, because I'm enjoying this oppression. If we dismantle it, I'm gonna be equal to you.
Yes.
And this is what deliberately Mangope was to people. But you know what's the problem? If we say this to people of Buputatswana, when you say this, it's as if you are disrespecting their leader. And this is why it's difficult to unpack South African histories when you confront what the reality was. And he fought very hard. And he even fought alongside AWB when they were taking his Buputatswana away.
Yes.
Because he didn't want this thing to be unshackled. Because he loved the situation.
Crab in the bucket.
Yes, so I want you to explain, and I understand white people were shielded from a lot of the things that were happening outside South Africa. What was it like for you guys, now that you know better? What were the benefits of this Buputatswana? Of course, it was divide and rule, but why did they benefit?
Why did white people benefit?
Yeah, because I spoke to Johnny Mutlala. He gave me an example, especially of people who say, because there are people, believe me, who say Buputatswana was better, apartheid was better. They say it because they are counting, because there were certain benefits that they were getting with that kind of oppression. That's why they use the word kitchen end. And then when we dismantle the whole thing that we all could all share, suddenly even white people need to go on a queue. I will not enjoy if I had a system where I did not queue. Now I have to queue with people that I'm not going to enjoy. So I want to ask you, when Buputatswana was enjoying those benefits, or not Buputatswana, the leaders of Buputatswana and the whites and AWB, what was the benefit of growing the country? And because I believe there was no benefit. What was beneficial to him, Buputatswana guy, AWB, and the government?
Okay, so you must just remember is that I think the benefit was that you have places where you can keep black people.
The benefit was just to divide us.
And you need it, and honestly, the homelands. If you can show me success stories, and everyone gives me Buputatswana, tell me why it was a success. Because we probably needed one success story for BBC when they came and interviewed people in the homelands, that they can we've got one success story. We're very clever that way. So it was probably the only one, because I can really tell you the homelands were human dumping grounds.
Ish.
You had 60% children dying before they turned 2 in the homelands.
Ish.
You had starvation. You had one doctor to 19,000 people in the homelands that wouldn't be there all the time, by the way. So anyone that tells me that, when we stayed in the homelands, apartheid was better. And I have actually been, so I do a lot of training, and then I'll go and train, at mines and stuff like that. And then I'll speak to the old guys that have been at the mines for ages, and they worked during apartheid.
Yes.
And then you hear the absolute horrific stuff they've went through. So I understand why they vote for ANC. I do. And I understand why they fear, in a way, the change to EFF.
To return back to where,
Yeah. So I understand that, because, that, if you compare that to now, it's a total different thing. The hours they used to work, they had no rights. So you didn't really have to do much as the ANC or the new regime that came in. And I'm not saying that the ANC didn't do much. I also think that's also this kind of drastic, they've done nothing, they're useless. Stop that.
There isn't, Pains tried to explain what were the benefits of these things. You will be surprised. You see it on social media, how people are so nostalgic about those old days. So,
but about what?
Yeah. So in the far north provinces, they used to call it Shumela Venda. Ne?
Okay.
It was the Venda state.
Okay.
I forgot what they called it. And then so we had all pockets of them. And the only thing I can think of was just to divide us in tribal conclaves.
Oh, but it was in tribal,
Yes, tribal conclaves and stuff. And whenever we debate this, people think you hate them because your own tribe did not do well. You understand where I'm going?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, this divide and rule, I would ask people what were the benefits. And because I'm struggling to understand what were the benefits of us having that, because it just divided and it kept us. And that's why there was resistance even amongst ourselves whenever the new dispensation came. Because those few who were getting these benefits were going to zero.
Yes.
But anyway, I think we're at the end of the interview now.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything that you think you wanted to speak about? You didn't speak, because now I want to ask you about the clapback you did on the assumption that they, at the George, I don't know what to call it. Looks like a massacre, but it's a what should we call it? The collapsed building in George?
I would call it definitely not an accident.
It's not an
I hate
accident.
it when people do that.
It's not an accident. It's, what do we call it? A massacre? Or do we call it?
For me,
Because if you say it's an accident, it's as if it wasn't an accident.
it's a construction catastrophe, and there's going to be many more if we allow these things to carry on.
Okay, number one, let's talk. Did we finally get the identity of the company?
So there are a number of companies involved, though.
Okay.
So yes, they got the identity of the company, and in fact, I haven't got the list in front of me.
Yeah.
There are 10. Everyone, who actually did well on this, which I was
Surprised.
Although I must say, the journalist herself, there are certain pieces that she does. Mariam Tam,
Okay.
from Daily Maverick, and I know when I say Daily Maverick, just don't let them talk about the EFF.
Yes.
And then they also
Yes.
But this particular story, she came out, but she also said it was so difficult to get information.
Very difficult.
It was so hard to get information. And for me, I still think keep your eyes on that. Also look at construction, not only in George, but construction in Mossel Bay.
Okay.
Those two, certain party
In the
run.
South Coast? Yeah.
Certain party run in the Western Cape. Look at who's got connections with who. But anyway, for me it was a total catastrophe, and I think it's had a lot to do with the fact where the people look after each other.
Okay, how many companies were involved?
10.
10 companies. So who's the main contractor?
His name is Theo Kruger.
Oh.
Yeah.
So our suspicions were right.
I've got a list of the names.
Our suspicions were right. It's not some BEE guy.
There's
coming
no BEE in
there's
that.
There's no
There's
BEE guy. Okay.
No. Every single one
Yes.
of those things. If you look at all of those companies.
So people were paid 80-something rand a day.
Oh, I saw that, and you know what the funniest thing is that you can't find someone pursuing that angle.
Yes.
So it was slipped in, I think, the George Herald, and now when I went to go and look for that particular article,
it's gone.
it's gone. But then another news outlet had picked up the 80 rand, but it says allegedly. But there's no way you're going to pick up this random amount and say, oh no, they were paid 80 rand a day. The fact that it was people that were undocumented.
I was hoping for Gayton. I hope he succeeded, because what Gayton does whenever a story like that, he quickly runs there, he cordons the people off, and then he sucks information from it, and he had already started that. So it's very difficult, because I would wish he could take this to mainstream media so someone could publish. It's very difficult to get the truth out of there. And the reason, so we started seeing how difficult it was. So no, it means white people are involved here. So here's the thing. So we've been saying in my channel, and I've said to a lot of Zimbabwean guys, the reason we do not want you to come here in South Africa illegally and stuff is because they're going to enslave you, number one. Number two, even after the enslavement by our ruthless sort of business people in farms, and you are still going to be hated by the people who were supposed to get 150 per day because you took 80 rands per day. So we'll end up fighting as Africans for something that we could have avoided.
But that's the idea.
Yeah, you see, and this is where it boggles me to say, guys, there's no need for us to fight. I mean, we are helping each other here. If you go there and sell your, like Helen Zille wants, to go there and sell your labor at what the employer wants, you will always get peanuts and it will always be slave. And you are, oh, by the way, anyway, let's just go back to this. I don't want to talk about this issue. So, are there any indictments? What have court processes started? Or because I saw the minister went there and he came back, he said, I've left my chief inspector there. We are letting the cops, and when the cops are done, we're going. Are we going to win as people of South Africa? Because our win is to see those companies being closed and those people being prosecuted because they killed people deliberately.
Okay, so. What I've been doing is I went back in construction accidents right up until...
I saw with you unpack to say, this this is not... Yeah.
Yes, but then I also looked... That's
the designers and the engineers were white.
Yeah, and the companies that... The developers were white.
Yeah.
And the issue here is that when I did that, there is seldom any consequences. There's no record of the bridge falling, for instance, that was...
The Joburg one?
Was that 98 or 96? No, it was already in 96.
Okay.
There was a bridge that fell and there were a whole lot of people were killed, including the engineer.
Okay.
Okay. So you've got this report and stuff like that, but there's no indication. No one went to jail. No one,
Yeah.
And at that stage, no one was compensated. And I've noticed that there's no consequences for this kind of thing. And there was a spate of accidents at a stage because there was so much building in South Africa that people were cutting corners and they were trying to undercut each other price-wise. I mean, for instance, this engineer that was booked on this particular job, the George, yeah. So the head engineer on this job, he's got a history of making mistakes. And people now spoke out, but they all want to stay anonymous because that's how scary this. We always hear about the mafia, construction mafia with Eskom and stuff.
And they think construction mafia are African people in town.
Yes. But so these people didn't speak out, and they knew that this guy has messed up previously, where people had to rebuild stuff. So, and this is, they eventually came out because and we don't want to identify the person here. We're not talking about the person here. What we are talking about here is a system that empowers someone like that and allows him to build how many projects, to head up how many projects. And that he's not competent. That it's a problem. And that's the issue, is that, I listened to, for instance, AfriForum, the Solidarity Movement, and also Peter Groenewald from Freedom Front Plus. That's what made me so upset about what he said. That's why I went at them about that. We've got this list of engineers, and they're so wonderful, and it's competent, and they can fix the problem. I loved the beginning where he says South Africa has engineers that can fix the problem. I'm like, yes, and then but they left because of blackness in the economy. That's what was his exact. I'm like, dude. But yes, the thing is, the assumption, because you look like me, you are going to be competent. And if I was a male, you'd be even more competent. So it's just crazy. If you just look at what happened here, they kept quiet. Why? Why did you not keep quiet? So why did you keep quiet? So the one developer where this main engineer worked on a job previously spoke to other engineers and said, okay, we need to get the lawyers involved. And they were all too scared and they just stopped. So he carried on building. And he was hired in some of the jobs because he was cheaper than other engineers. So he was cheaper than his white counterparts. so just listen how flawed that system is.
Yeah.
But when you hear things like construction mafia, no one thinks, here is 10 companies working together that were involved in this particular, and not one, one truly BEE company.
So all those 10 were white companies.
Yeah.
And, well, maybe they are not involved. So the 2010 collaborators during the building of what happened to those guys? Slaps on the wrist?
You know as much as
I don't know. And
on that one.
well, let's just leave it. We can't fix South Africa in one podcast.
No, we can't.
Thank you very much for coming.
Oh, thank you so much.
One last difficult one.
Oh.
Do you know who you're voting for?
Yes.
You've made your decision?
Yes.
All 3 ballots, you know?
Yes.
Are you keen to share?
I'm just going to put it this way.
Yes.
They are very much on the left.
They are very much on the left. Okay. And the color is aligned with left. With left colors, like... I don't want to give it away too much.
I could give it away, but I'm not going to. I think people know where I stand. I've got there's 2 parties that you know. My heart goes for.
Okay, guys, just a hint. Ne? She might be voting for something that has to do with the color of my cap. But thank you very much. Thank you.